Hey everybody, today I want to take a closer look at creating a disaster recovery plan with Veeam Availability Orchestrator. So if we want to create a new plan, we come over to Manage and we simply say New Plan. Now I'm going to go through this whole wizard and explain the difference between the three different plan types and how you would configure each of them. First and foremost is our site scope. Because I am logged in as an administrator, I see everything, right? If I was logging as an app owner, I would just see the assets that I had access to, but we're going to go on as an administrator today. Plan info, we just need to give our plan a name. We're going to call it demo. And it would be a great idea to put a little description of the application or environment we're protecting here, and then contact information, which is always very important in the event of a disaster. Now here's the plan type. We have three different types of disaster recovery plans inside of Veeam Availability Orchestrator. And depending on what plan we choose, we're going to see a couple of changes on the side here. Start with a replica plan. This is a plan to recover from Veeam replicas. A storage plan, the VMs are going to be recovered from replicated storage volumes, and then a restore plan will be a recovery from Veeam backups. Now, if I click the storage radio button right here, we're going to see a change, right? So go back here, go back here. We see this protect VM groups step actually disappeared. That's because when it comes to a storage plan, we're going to have the option to protect our data when we're running the failover, right? So when we actually run our storage orchestration plan, we have the option to protect volumes after failover. That's going to reverse our snap mirror in the other direction and start syncing it for us. If we come to a restore plan, we're going to see something else pop up, and that's the recovery location. The recovery location, and I went through how to build these out in my configuration video, is just your logical grouping of resources that you're going to recover to. Now you do need a recovery location for a storage plan as well. You need to have that configured, but under the covers, VAO is going to determine the best storage recovery location for you. So we're going to go ahead and I think we're going to go with the restore plan just because if you look at it, it's the longest one and it will hit every single step in this wizard for the most part. Next is picking the recovery location. We'll always have the option to recover to our original location. We don't even need to configure it. It's there out of the box, but we're going to pick our tier 2 recovery location. VM groups. In the context of a restore or replica plan, it is a group of VMs powered by vSphere tags. We talked about this in the config video a little bit as well. We have a couple ways to do this, but vSphere tags is really the most useful because you can also build your Veeam backup and replication jobs based on those tags. Let's go and pick one of these. Silicon Lift. We've got a bunch of VMs there that we're going to restore. Click add and move on. And we can add multiple groups here. So let's add this one too. Let's just keep going, and that's good enough for now. So you can add as many groups as you need to make up your plan, right? So you might be doing a site level recovery plan. It might be an application level recovery plan. Just add those groups here. Next is VM recovery options. Now, what do we want to do if a VM recovery fails? We can halt the plan, try to fix it and go on, or we can just have VIO keep proceeding. That's important based on the type of application you're using. This is a really key feature right here. So do we want to recover the VM simultaneously or in sequence? After we create our plan, we can go back and edit it and put those VMs in the proper sequence if our application has a specific startup order. So let's say in sequence for fun. Now you can see that we can't simultaneously recover VMs because we switched that to in sequence. We also have the option to restore VM tags if we need to. And let's go to this new VM template. So the power of VAO is all of these automated steps that we can run against an application. When we create a new plan, we are selecting steps that are going to be run on each and every VM. Again, we can edit that plan later and then get really granular. So for example, if we scroll to the bottom here, I have a number of enterprise application verification steps. I would probably want to add those later and say, okay, verify my SQL port on my SQL server, verify IIS on my web server, that type of thing. But these are the steps that we're going to run on each and every VM. So let's add this application verification script too. We want to verify that each component of our application is working as it should, all that good stuff. That could be a huge audit point for many customers. Now, if we come to protect VM groups, this is really cool. Now let's come to protect VM groups. This is a great feature. It's important to remember that in a disaster, our DR environment is now our production environment, and we need to be protecting that data. we can see that we have a couple of jobs that I've pre-created in B&R. It's just a job that has VAO template in brackets in the description. And I can say, based on my application's RPO, so I could have a bunch of these canned and ready to go, we need to start backing up these VMs with the appropriate RPO. Speaking of RPO, here is another fantastic feature of RPO. So we can accurately measure your RTO and your RPO. So how do we do that? When it comes to a restore plan or a replica plan, we're checking your last Veeam backup and replication job. Was it successful, and how old is your latest restore point? Is it within the RPO? When it comes to a storage plan, we're looking at your last snap mirror. Was it successful, and how long has it been since the last snap mirror? Now, when we go to RTO, we're going to gauge that with a data lab test. Now, we use Veeam Data Labs under the cover to spin up a copy of your production environment that is completely non-impactful to your actual production environment. There's a couple things we need to configure on B&R. First is the virtual lab appliance, which is that proxy device that allows communication into your bubble, your isolated bubble environment that the data lab creates. And then we create lab groups in VAO, and lab groups are any kind of supporting VMs you might need. So like an AD DNS server in there, so your application has access to these things. We will test that very, very accurately with a data lab test. Now, since we're talking about restore plans, there's actually two options for testing a restore plan. There's a quick test option, which just uses instant VM recovery to test everything as quickly as possible. Really good if you have a big application. And then we can do a full lab test, which will actually simulate restoring because it will start up copies of your VMs in your target environment. So if you really want an accurate gauge of your RTO when it comes to restore plan, make sure you do that full test. The quick test is great just when you're getting started. You want to make sure you don't have any errors, see how everything's going, but make sure to run that full test to get your most accurate RTO. When it comes to our replica plans and our storage plans, it's a little different, right? Our data is already there. We're not actually having to do restores and copy everything. So you'll have one option for that data lab test, and that will accurately gauge your RTO. Another huge component of VAO is the reporting. There are 4 different report types, and I'm going to do a deep dive video on this, but basically you will get a lab test. We just talked about data lab testing. You'll get a lab test report to show you exactly what happened during your data lab test. Of course, there's an execution report. Should you actually launch an orchestration plan, you'll get a report of everything that happened. We also have our lightweight readiness check, which we'll talk about more in a minute. And then we also have our plan definition reports. And those are fantastic because that's your audit trail right there. It'll show you who logged in, when, and what changes they made to the plan. Of course, we can subscribe key stakeholders to all of these reports. And we can actually update that plan definition and have it automatically sent daily, and the same thing with the readiness check. So we know that we're always ready for a failover, and we know that our environment is in a good state and we don't have any potential audit points. As part of creating a plan, we can run that lightweight readiness check, see how everything's doing. In the case of this restore plan right here, it's going to go check your B&R jobs. It's going to make sure your backup jobs are running. When the last run was, is that within your RPO window? Are you meeting your RPO? And then it's going to go check your recovery location as well and do a lightweight check to make sure everything's ready for a failover at any moment. Summary, you can see everything we created right now. Finish. And that's it. That's all there is to it. I just showed you in 10 minutes, less than 10 minutes actually, how to create a disaster recovery plan with Veeam Availability Orchestrator. And of course, that plan comes with full documentation out of the box. Now that our readiness check has run, we can see that we have a little bit of work to do, right? We have some errors and some warnings. So the next step is to go into that readiness check report and take a look at our environment. And we'll be back with that in another video.